When Winston Churchill became Prime Minister on May the 10th, 1940, Britain stood on the edge of annihilation. France was collapsing. The British Expeditionary Force was trapped at Dunkirk. Nazi Germany had swept through Europe with terrifying speed, and invasion seemed inevitable. In this moment of absolute crisis, Churchill had no tanks, no reinforcements, and no clear path to victory. But he had something else. Words. And those words would change everything. Churchill's first speech as Prime Minister on May the 13th, 1940, set the tone for everything that followed. Standing before the House of Commons, he offered no false hope, no sugar-coating. "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat," he declared. This brutal honesty was revolutionary. While other leaders might have downplayed the danger, Churchill confronted it head-on. He told the British people exactly what they faced, and in doing so, he gave them something to fight for. His policy was simple: to wage war. His aim was singular: victory, victory at all costs, victory in spite of all terror, victory however long and hard the road may be, for without victory there is no survival. Just 3 weeks later, on June the 4th, over 300,000 Allied soldiers had been miraculously evacuated from Dunkirk. But Churchill knew this was no victory. It was a military disaster dressed up as deliverance. So he delivered perhaps his most famous speech, the "We shall fight on the beaches" address. The power of this speech lay in its relentless repetition. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. Each "we shall" hammered home the message. Britain would not break. Allegedly, after finishing the speech, Churchill turned to a colleague and whispered, "And we'll fight them with the butt ends of broken beer bottles because that's bloody well all we've got." But the public never heard that part. They heard only defiance. 2 weeks later, on June 18th, France surrendered. Britain now stood completely alone against the Nazi war machine. Churchill delivered his finest hour speech, framing the moment not as defeat, but as destiny. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour. He transformed isolation into honor, desperation into glory. He drew parallels to World War I, reminding his audience that the Allies had endured 4 years of disaster before ultimate victory. He was teaching them how to think about the war, how to endure it. But Churchill's speeches did more than boost British morale. They galvanized the Allied powers. He deliberately wove references to the English-speaking peoples, linking Britain's fate to America's even before the United States entered the war. He spoke of shared history, shared values, and shared destiny. When Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941, President Roosevelt cabled Churchill, "Today all of us are in the same boat, and it is a ship which will not and cannot be sunk." Churchill later recalled, "That night I slept the sleep of the saved and thankful." His rhetoric had helped build the bridge that would bring America into the war. Churchill's speeches worked because they operated on multiple levels. He used ethos, establishing his credibility through unflinching honesty. He used pathos, triggering the fight-or-flight response and steering his listeners toward fight. He used logos, laying out the strategic reality with clarity. And he used language itself as a weapon. Journalist Ed Murrow said Churchill mobilized the English language and sent it into battle. President Kennedy later echoed this, noting how Churchill wielded words with the force of armies. The impact was measurable. During the Blitz, when German bombers pounded British cities night after night, civilian morale held. The British military chiefs had warned that the real question was whether the morale of our people will withstand the strain of air bombardment. It did. Churchill's rhetoric had rekindled national pride, given people a narrative to cling to, a reason to endure. His speeches became the backbone of British resistance. In the end, Churchill's words did more than inspire. They shaped how the entire world understood World War II. He defined it as a struggle between civilization and tyranny, freedom and evil. He gave the Allied cause moral clarity. And when victory finally came, it was clear that while tanks and planes had won battles, Churchill's speeches had won something more fundamental. They had won the will to fight. Without that, all the weapons in the world would have meant nothing.